Previously, we reviewed this book, the Checklist Manifesto, How to Get Things Right. But who recommended this book to 12 scholars? Welcome to Bob's Book Club. One of the best books I've come across in recent years when it comes to business transformation was written by a guy called Laszlo Bock. And it's a pretty memorable name. And he's the guy he was former head of people operations at Google. And he wrote a brilliant book back in 2015 called Work Rules. And that's his book. Pretty bold image on the front there. So Work Rules that will transform how you live and lead. And there we've got his spine there. So it's a pretty big book, almost 400 pages. But he wrote it in 2015, and as soon as I heard about it, I bought it immediately. Now, I'm not one for big books, and kind of 400 pages can be pretty daunting. So I was really pleased to find out that it was released as an audiobook at the same time. And whilst I was working, I was doing a lot of commuting at the time, and I just devoured the audiobook. And yet I had the physical book as well. But to be honest, this book here has had very little thumbage and reading, and it was more about the audiobook. And it was really quite enjoyable. The chapters I was able to go back over and over again. And it was one that I've recommended to other people, not just the book, but also the audiobook. So Laszlo Bock, he joined Google at a time when they went from recruiting hardly anyone to recruiting thousands of people per day. And not just in one place, but globally. And this book charts the story through the eyes of Laszlo Bock and his colleagues like Eric Schmidt and the founders, about how they went and attracted the right talent, how they kept that talent and promoted it, and how they were able to get rid of talent and just search for the best people at all times. So it's a brilliant book, all about business transformation, and certainly about how you grow from a relatively small enterprise into one of the biggest businesses on the planet. When I had another look at this book, there was one particular chapter that jumped out, and that was chapter 8, The Two Tails. And in here, Laszlo Bock, he introduces the classic bell-shaped curve, and he talks about the two tails, or the two extremes. And when it comes to business transformation, he talks about this. The biggest opportunities lie in your absolute worst and best employees. So when it comes to business transformation, it's not just about dealing with your worst performing people or your absolute worst, but also you need to focus on your best employees, because they're the people who are going to take your business forward. And I can't remember whether this was the first time I'd read about that as a principle, but certainly it's been at the forefront of my mind in recent years. And this transformation and people dealing with the two ends of the bell curve, it's certainly something that I've talked about with the businesses that I've worked with over the last few years. A real key theme. So that was just one thing that came from this. The other thing I got out of this book was all about processes, especially when it comes to recruitment and selection. Because when you Google size and you're employing hundreds and thousands of people per week, you need to make sure you've got the right systems in place. Because the chances are you'll be interviewing at least 10 times or 100 times that many candidates. So you need to make sure you've got slick systems in place. So processes, absolute key to them, and they can also be key to you. You don't need to be Google size to benefit from the practices, the top tips, tools and techniques that are within this book. So they're just a couple of ideas, they're just a couple of thoughts that I've got from this book that have made a real impact to me and the businesses I've worked with. Honestly, I can't recommend this book enough, and whether you go for the hardback or the audio version like I did, or both, I'm sure you'll benefit from this book. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Bob's Book Club. If you do buy this book, then by all means reach out to me. I'd be really interested to see to hear what you've got to say about this book too. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.